Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about 10 pieces of camping gear that every prepper should own. But before we get too deep into that, if this is your first time by the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and if you've been by here before, welcome back. I'm glad I didn't scare you off in the last video. If you don't mind, go ahead and hitting that subscribe button, the notification bell, that'd be awesome. And if any point during the video you enjoy what you see, maybe learn something that you hadn't thought of before, go ahead and hit that like button as well. So let's get started. The types of gear that I'm going to be talking about today are pieces of camping gear that I have used camping and that I have found have come in handy during emergency situations. Maybe it's something like a temporary blackout, or even just normal everyday whoopsie kind of stuff. Things that are good to have around just to make your life a little bit more easy and a little bit more convenient. And when I say camping, I know that there's a lot of different definitions of that, and the type of camping that you do might kind of make you think of maybe different types of gear than the stuff that I'm going to mention. But my definition of camping, what I have done most of, has just been travel somewhere in your car, set up a tent, camp that way, or go camping at deer camp. I know that there's a lot of people that use RVs. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there are your backcountry campers, which have everything ultra light, and then they, walk miles and miles to their campground. My definition of camping and what I've done most frequently is kind of in the middle of those two, I guess you could say, extremes. And not in any particular order, but the first piece of camping gear that we're going to talk about is a good multi-tool. Probably Leatherman. They are probably the biggest name in the multi-tool market right now. This particular one is made by Victorinox. They're the same company that produce Swiss Army knives. But the good thing about a multi-tool is it's going to be something that you can use either camping or just during your normal everyday whoopsie kind of situations. Keep it in an EDC bag, keep it in your purse, your glove box, or in a drawer in your home, so where you know where it is. And you got a ton of functionality in just a tiny package. Like, you start off with the pliers. I actually just used these yesterday. My dad needed help disconnecting a water line and reconnecting a new water line onto refrigerators. They got a new one. And pliers came in handy for that because we didn't have to just go run and find a wrench, given that is the right tool for the job. This just made it a little bit more convenient. Also, you have things like blades, which you can use for food preparation. You can also use it as a general purpose utility knife. But the thing that I really like that multi-tools have are can openers. Can openers are a very big deal, especially if you're in a power outage and you need some way to open up maybe your cans of soup or your vegetables, and your electric can opener has gone kaput or run out of batteries. Having a decent manual can opener and knowing how to use it is very beneficial. And if maybe you don't necessarily like the whole multi-tool, you want something a little bit less blocky, maybe something that can fit in your pocket a little bit better. I love Swiss Army knives. I have been carrying one of these things for years, and they are a little bit more ergonomic than maybe a big bulky multi-tool, just because it's a bunch of tools designed around a knife rather than a pair of pliers. Makes it a little bit more ergonomic to use, and just like a multi-tool, it's going to have things like your can openers, it's going to have knife blades, and the only thing really it's going to be missing is a big beefy pair of pliers. This has tiny pliers. This will work for bending small wires or getting maybe a hook out of a fish mouth. But if you want big beefy pliers, then you probably really need to go with a traditional type multi-tool. The next type of camping gear that every prepper should own is going to be a good portable water filter. Now, I've done a few different videos that have my Berkey in it. It's a great unit, but it's designed more to just sit on a countertop and be used at home. But there are times when you want to be able to filter water on the go. And something like a Sawyer Mini is a very good and inexpensive choice. Usually these cost around $20, and you get a filter that will remove virtually all bacteria and protozoa. It comes with a little straw that you can attach onto the end to use as a drinking straw, similar to the Life Straw water filters. Also comes with a bag that you can use to collect water, and even though it comes with this bag, the threads on the back of this filter will attach to kind of larger water bottles. They won't attach to, like, what you would get in a 16 pack of water, but I believe that they will attach to things like smart water bottles and 2-liter Coke bottles, things like that. And to keep it running long term, you have a back flush syringe, which you fill with clean water, attached to the output end of the filter, and then as you push on the syringe, it will back flush the filter and get rid of like any large sediment or stuff like that that's inside of the filter. But one downside to a filter like this is it's designed to be used more in a backcountry environment where the only thing that you really have to worry about contaminant-wise is going to be things like bacteria and protozoa. Viruses aren't usually a problem in a backcountry setting, and neither are chemicals. So if you're wanting to remove things like that and still be able to have a portable package that you can use to do that with, something like a Sport Berkey or one of the filtration bottles by Seychelles, I think it's Seychelles, something like that, those would be good options. And also water containers like the Reliance Aquatainer are good to have on hand for either camping or emergency preparedness. The next piece of camping gear that every prepper should own is going to be a battery-operated LED lantern like this one. This is just a little lantern that I picked up at a sporting goods store near where I live. Ones like this will generally produce around 1,000 lumens, and what I like about battery-operated LED lanterns versus other types of lighting is there's zero chance that they're going to produce carbon monoxide poisoning. They also run very cool because the LED, it's not really burning any type of fuel, so it's not going to get hot, meaning it's safe to touch even when it's running. If you knock it over, you're not going to have to worry about burning the house down, and if you're dealing with some sort of situation during summer, it's not going to heat your whole house up. And when it comes to power options for these lanterns, you have a couple different options. You can go with a lantern that has a built-in rechargeable battery. You can also get ones that run on just regular AA, AAA. This particular one runs off of D-cell batteries. And I kind of like to go with kind of a middle approach where I use rechargeable batteries in this, because if you have one that has an internal rechargeable battery and that battery goes bad, the whole unit's toast. You can't use it anymore. But if you get one like this that uses regular alkaline batteries and you get the rechargeable variants of those, then you don't have as much battery waste. Stock up on those, and if those are too expensive to buy a whole bunch of, use your rechargeables first and have a stockpile of regular alkaline batteries in storage that you can use for a more long-term situation. The next piece of camping gear that I recommend every prepper own is going to be a good sleeping bag. Now this one is just your normal run-of-the-mill sleeping bag that you could buy at any big box store. I've actually had this one since I was a kid. It's pretty well built, it's lasted a long time. But one thing I would recommend doing is if you don't have a sleeping bag or you have the funds to maybe buy another one, is that you get a modular sleeping bag similar to what the military uses, because since it's designed kind of in different layers, it allows you to use that sleeping bag in warmer temperatures as well as super cold temperatures. So it's kind of like layering your clothes. Rather than just having one big, very fluffy layer, it's good to wear multiple layers so that it traps that heat. And that's kind of the general premise of that. And also, if it's warmer, of course, you can take those layers away. So a modular sleeping bag would allow you to be as comfortable as possible in as wide of a range of situations as possible. The next piece of camping gear that every prepper should own is going to be a good portable stove. And ones like this one here and this one over here, they're going to run on just your normal run-of-the-mill little 1-pound propane cylinders. And you can also buy adapters for most of these types of stoves that will allow you to hook them up to something like a 20-pound propane cylinder, like what you would use for your gas grill. And what I like about this stove and this stove over here is that they are going to be powerful enough that you can do most of the cooking that you would do just on your normal stove top in your house. And out of these two designs, I think I prefer this one. My dad picked this up for me at an antique store not too long ago, and what I like about it is that it has windscreens on 3 sides that'll prevent the flame from being blown out. I've had this one since college. I bought this before me and some buddies went camping at Big Bend National Park, and kind of the thing I don't like about it is you notice it doesn't have those windscreens. So if it's windy, it's going to be kind of difficult to cook with this just because the flame can get blown out. And also with this design, you notice it has a big long grate that pretty much continuously goes across the length of the stove. And what that's going to allow you to do is if you have something like a cast iron griddle, you're going to be able to set that on there so that you'll be able to cook a wider range of things than you would on this one, because I think this is just a little bit longer than most griddles, and you would only really be able to cook on these far ends. Another option, if let's say that you like backcountry camping, you like to hike for a little ways before you actually get to your campsite, these might be a little bit too heavy. You might not want to lug them around. Something like this spirit burner or alcohol stove is probably going to be a better option for you. All it runs on is just denatured alcohol. You can find that in pretty much any painting section, like at Walmart, Home Depot. It's with all the solvents. It just takes up very little space, but the issue is this is going to be mainly good for doing things like boiling water or heating up soup. It's not going to be quite as easy to cook larger things on this as it would be to cook on these. And another good option, if you're wanting something, especially that you can cook indoors with, there's a lot of butane stoves that are rated for both indoor and outdoor use. The next piece of camping gear that preppers should own is going to be a tent fan. And if you're not familiar with what a tent fan is, usually tents will have kind of like a little hook or a little ring hanging from the very top of the tent, and you can use this to clip onto there so you have more or less kind of a ceiling fan inside of your tent. The cool thing about that is if you have a hook that you can put into your ceiling, like particularly into a wall anchor so it won't fall on you, then you can use this as a ceiling fan. You attach some paracord, run it from the hook down to the top of this, and it can hang right over your head while you're sleeping. I showed how to do that in my video, How to Stay Cool During a Power Outage, and I'll put a card linking up to that video. And this particular one, it has two fan settings. It has low, or sorry, I think that's high. Then it has low. And then also it has a light with three settings. It has high, low, and then also kind of has this reddish brown kind of Tuscan night light that you can use if you don't want a whole lot of light, you just want to see where you're going, maybe not waking up everybody else that's in the tent. It'll work well for that. While a tent fan is meant to keep you cool during kind of a warmer weather emergency, a propane space heater is going to be meant to keep you warm during a cooler emergency. And ones like this, these are going to run on those 1 pound propane bottles that I mentioned earlier when talking about the camp stoves. And the good thing about ones like this is that it's going to have a few different safety features. It has a tip over sensor in it, so where if it gets tipped over, it turns off automatically to help reduce the chance of a fire. And also it has protections for carbon monoxide, although you always want to use something like this in a well-ventilated area, and also try to have a carbon monoxide alarm with you so that you can tell if those levels get too high, because carbon monoxide poisoning can be fatal. The next piece of camping gear that preppers should own is going to be a good canteen or bottle cook set. And this is something that you would use more if you had to bug out to make sure that you could prepare small meals and also boil water if necessary. And this particular one I got from Dave Canterbury's Self-Reliance Outfitters. First thing it comes with is a stainless steel water bottle, and you can boil water directly in this. Just don't have the cap on it because that'll go kaboom. And also comes with a cup that you can use to cook with, along with a stove. And the cool thing about the stove is that you can burn twigs underneath it. You can also use sterno or even one of those spirit burners that I showed earlier in the video. And it also comes with a couple of other accessories, like a lid to put on the canteen cup. That'll help the water boil faster without blowing up like the bottle would if the lid was on it. And also comes with a fish mouth spreader. And what you use this for is there are some holes inside of the cup. You attach that in there, and now you can suspend your cup over a fire. Then, in addition to that, also comes with a kind of cool little spoon fork combo. It's a spork that's actually useful. Sporks are like the devil, but also has like a little butter knife cutting edge that you can use also. And then even came with some little fire starting discs. If you guys want me to do a full review of this bottle set and show y'all how well one of these fire starting discs work, go ahead and let me know in the comments. The next piece of camping gear that preppers should own is going to be a portable toilet. Now, if the poo-poo hits the fan, the poo-poo is still going to hit your colon. So you need some way that you can take care of that should there be some sort of sewage and sanitation issue within your city that would prevent you from using your normal toilet, which, as awful as that would be, you still need a way to get that out. And one of these portable toilets, this thing is as old as the hills. It's probably older than me, but most of the time they'll come with a toilet seat and then a bucket inside that you can drape a trash bag over to make things easier to clean up. And also a good thing to pick up for use with something like this is going to be kitty litter. That'll help keep the smell down just like it does for your cats. And these are getting harder to find where it's like the full self-contained unit, but it is still very easy to find toilet seats that will sit on top of a 5-gallon bucket, and they can do pretty much the same thing, but I would recommend draping a trash bag over it so it's easy to clean up. The next type of camping gear that preppers should own is a good assortment of different types of lighters and then also ferro rods. And you want to have kind of different types of lighters for different situations. Like long lighters like this are going to be good for lighting things like your fireplace, camp stoves, gas grills, things like that. And then also you want to have smaller lighters that you can have with you, just keep in your pocket, keep in packs, don't take up a lot of room. Because these things, they're pretty reliable, they're pretty easy to use, except for when you have a ceiling fan going on over your head like what I do. And they're pretty cheap. Then also, ferro rods, they last forever. One this size, and this I think is a 6-inch by 1/2-inch ferro rod. It's pretty big, but really that's what you want. You want something you can get a ton of strikes out of and something that's going to be very easy to hold on to even when your hands are cold. And you can have one smaller than this. I actually have a very tiny one that I keep in my wallet, but having a good assortment of lighters and ferro rods will allow you to easily light fires in a very wide range of circumstances, whether or not you're at home or you're out camping or you're just out in the field when maybe you didn't mean to be. So I know that the title of this video was 10 camping items that preppers should own, but I'm going to go ahead and cheat and I'm going to throw a couple more in here as well because honestly they do deserve to be in there, and one of them is going to be a good fixed blade knife. This is a Becker BK16. It's awesome for things like food prep, carving, if you need to make notches in wood, or if you're just bored and you want to whittle. It can also handle some tasks like batoning small branches if that's something that you like to do. Got an aftermarket sheath for it. And then also a hatchet, although I think if you have a good knife kind of along this side, like a 4 or 5-inch blade, that maybe instead of a short hatchet like this Estwing, maybe get one that's a little bit longer, like a boy's axe or camp axe. I know Fiskars makes one, Estwing actually makes one as well, but if you have a longer axe and you have a blade about this size, then that should cover most of the tasks that you would need to do if you were camping in such a way that requires you to process wood either for fires or if you're wanting to build shelters. Once again, thank you guys for stopping by. I'm glad you could make it. If you didn't do so earlier and you enjoyed the video, if you don't mind, go ahead and hitting those subscribe, like, and notification buttons. That would be awesome. And also, if you don't mind, go ahead and keep an eye out down below in the merchandise store area, because any support that you'd be willing to give the channel, I would greatly appreciate. So, hope to see y'all back. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.